And welcome into Making Sense. You're probably having a sigh of relief because we're now getting to the part of November when elections are over. No more commercials that are going to tell you how terrible everybody is. Actually, they should be taunting their own assets rather than telling what the other guy is not going to do. It's over with, but now let's look at your assets. And we brought in Brandt McDonald because you're with McDonald, Barranco, and Hagen Wealth Management.
Correct.
And now that the elections are over, we can the elections do have an impact on the market, don't they?
They do, and to your point, I mean, we're also happy that it's over because we have to go through all of this mudslinging and all of that type thing and the political posturing. But here's the reality, you know, now we're set up for the next 2 years, and there's a huge movement already underway for the White House. Both camps are maneuvering, doing fundraising, et cetera, and when you have sort of a president like we do now, who really is in the twilight of his presidency, you know, he's not going to be able to really shape and mold an agenda as much as he normally would, because you've got new people in Congress now with their agendas who are fiercely for or against various topics and issues. You know, certainly the Clinton machine is back in town.
Absolutely.
And they understand all too well how to run a campaign and how to win an election. I think that given all of the economic turbulence that we've been through in the last 5 to 6 years, a lot of the controversy, a lot of the polling numbers that we look at, Americans on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, are really sort of fed up with the inability of people to get along and negotiate and compromise to try to find solutions that really work for the U.S. economy and for all people in the country.
Tired of business as usual.
Exactly, and all the poll numbers indicate that. And so it's kind of one of these, you know, throw the bums out is sort of the view that whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you know, that's kind of been the view. And but what we see is a clear and stark contrast. I think that going forward, what we can expect is a massive push to reform taxes, to reform the entitlement programs. There are still a whole host of other issues out there, particularly energy. There's an incredible sort of energy renaissance that's going on in the country right now. Most people don't know this, but the U.S. has more oil, proven reserves in the ground than Saudi Arabia does. And for that matter, we also have an incredible amount of natural gas that is much larger in terms of total volume than any other country in the world.
And we're probably the most self-sufficient country of all the countries in the world.
There's no question about it. And so going forward now, it's a matter of, will we get the conditions in place legislatively from a fiscal perspective that will allow this industry to sort of unlock our resources and export them to the rest of the world, that would put Americans more at work in that type of industry or that field. And so I think from a political perspective, that's what we're looking at, and I think that's what all of the viewers should be thinking about, and those who work with us and follow us know that the three big issues from a political perspective to look for in this new Congress in the last 2 years of Obama's administration is how are they going to deal with corporate tax reform, individual tax reform, and entitlements. And when we talk about entitlements, more specifically, we're looking at Social Security. Social Security is a big issue that must be dealt with. I suspect from the folks that we've talked with around the country that what you'll eventually get is some sort of a compromise as a means testing type of program, maybe an extension of the age, an increase in the FICA limits, and a whole host of a combination of those things. And I wouldn't even rule out the possibility that eventually they have some sort of what might amount to the equivalent of an alternative minimum tax, where you have to demonstrate on your tax return that you have other means, other sources of income. And if you do, then it might result in an additional tax, which is at the end of the day nothing more than a grab bag of Social Security. So these are the critical issues in the new political season that we're in. Watch the presidential formations of these various camps who begin to posture for the presidency and the message they're delivering, and watch the new Congress as they begin to really try to reform these three critical areas: energy, corporate tax reform, and entitlement reform. Those are the three big ones. And I can promise you this will significantly impact all Americans. So it's going to behoove everyone to keep a real close ear to the news and to track what's going on. I can guarantee you that's what we're going to be doing, because it can impact balance sheets and retirement income cash flows in a very profound way, and we want to be out in front of that. So definitely, definitely a lot of food for thought there. And when it comes to politics, you know, it's one of those things where we talk about predictability and manageability. That's one of those areas where it's a little less predictable, and sometimes you go all the way up to the wire before you know exactly how it's going to turn out.
Well, good. Thank you. We're going to get you to come back again, talk about some other things as we're closing out the year. But just remember, as Brandt said, the politicians and the political season is over, but guess what? It's just begun, because they gave you some promises to get your vote on Election Day. Now make them fulfill those promises. We'll be right back right after this.